So thank you. Many of the regular questions on Kogi, for instance, we'll continue to work to do our best. There's nothing new. We'll keep trying to do our best to gain access to the people and support them in the work that they do. Like I've always said, this is an infectious disease. A virus is really apolitical, and we must keep trying to keep it that way. On whether we've peaked or not, we have not peaked. That is the situation. But still, we have to make the difficult decision between lives and livelihoods. The chair of this panel has stated that very often, and how difficult a decision that is for Mr. President. And yes, Mr. President listened to our advice, but he doesn't only listen to our advice. He listens to the advice of his economic team. They share with him the economic data from the country. He listens to the advice of the security team. They share with him the security situation across the country. So there are many factors that feed into his decisions. So obviously, the advice from this panel is one of the most important ones, but there are also other very important streams of information, and all these are linked. Health is linked to security, is linked to the economy. So you can't, even within health, COVID is linked to everything else. If you make your decisions only on COVID, and then what happens to people with cancer, malaria, that are pregnant, and so many other decisions. So whether the outbreak has peaked or not is an important part of that decision-making process, but it's not the only, it's definitely not the only part. So that's based on what this decision was made. Like I said, when we say they're from unknown sources, it's really, you have to understand the nature of the virus. This is a respiratory virus for which 80% of people don't have any symptoms, can transmit before they become symptomatic. Why are we not touching surfaces? Because you can touch a surface and become infected. So most people don't know where they get the infection from. That's just the reality of this virus. So it's not a failure not to know. That is just a fact. So I wouldn't, I know when you say unknown, it sounds, when you don't know, it's a bad thing. But in this case, it's just the reality of the virus that we're dealing with. I like the question on whether testing is enough. Testing is actually definitely not enough. We just released some new sequencing work we did with Redeemers University in Ede. We released it quietly because right now, we shouldn't really be talking about sequencing. We focused very hard on the response and on the easing of the lockdown. So we haven't kind of celebrated that a lot because our numbers are still going up. So whether you sequence or not, is the impact of the sequencing will come later in the response. But we're definitely doing the research necessary to guide the response. The question of the 20 local governments. The 20 local governments that we have identified are important for us to shape the response. It doesn't mean that we're going to not do what we need to do in the other 744 local governments in the country. Or is it 54? Yeah, 74 minus 20 will give us 54. 754, right? We will keep working in all the other local governments. So it's just that we will focus a lot of specific work in these local governments. Of that, almost every local government in Lagos is part of this 20. So this is really defines where we'll keep working. And the final thing, I think the Honorable Minister has answered on the role of primary health care. Even though we talk about primary health care, we remember everything is linked. Primary health care, imagine a pregnant woman starts her journey in antenatal classes in the primary health care. Eventually, she's going to deliver. Most likely, she won't deliver in a PHC. Some do. Others will go to a secondary health facility. So we have to try and keep the whole system working and the whole system supporting the outbreak. So when this outbreak started, like every small outbreak, it starts with NCDC. This is what we do every day. It's our bread and butter. But once an outbreak starts growing, you bring in a multi-sectoral response. That's when the PTF was formed. And the rest of the health sector now is no longer just a public health response. It's a healthcare services response. the entire health service has to now respond to the outbreak because of its size. And this is really the same from across the world. So every part of the health sector, every part of the economy, every part of the country is now focused on this response because we need to get it right in order to restart some form of normality. So thank you very much. Yeah, well, okay, yes, we are. So you know how contact tracing happens in real life. If you are infected, thankfully you're not, we'll ask you because you are the person that will tell us who you've been in contact with. Then we get the numbers of all those people. Then we start calling them, right? And then we ask them how they're doing, and we follow up with them. So that's what we're trying to do as much as we can. But of course, sometimes you don't know. You tell us, okay, I was in a school, and then we have to go to that school. Thankfully, schools are closed. But you can be in a social event or something, and we now have to go there to find out who else might have been in touch with you. So contact tracing cannot be complete on the phone. You also, and not everybody has a phone, obviously. So normally, contact tracing is the responsibility of the state government, right? The state public health teams. We don't normally get involved in contact tracing at all. So an ideal situation, just like in any outbreak, is where all aspects of government are really working together. So we're working towards that ideal situation. We're not there yet, but we'll keep pushing to get to that ideal situation in every state in the country. Thank you.